money goes to the big four, specifically Nigeria and Kenya, and majority of that money goes to specific startups. And it should be noted that that female founders, or let me say agricultural startups with female founders, receive a very small fraction of the monies that are given towards funding. Lastly, there's a lot of data gaps within even our analysis, because acquiring majority of the data that we collected was being provided from mostly desk research, because there's a great assumption that startups that are operational exist through websites and LinkedIn profiles, and going to the ground, I'm sure that we will be able to fill some of those gaps. We'll be able to find out about new existing agricultural startups. So, yeah, as Elsie has mentioned, this is just still preliminary analysis of the data that we have collected, and we hope to complement it later with physical research.
Thank you so much to the two ladies for such a powerful and insightful presentation. And also the one thing they've done is they've kept to time. I had warned them that they only have 20 minutes, and I'd even given them extra time, but they stopped earlier than the extra time. So I think they deserve another round of applause for being so punctual. So do we have any questions, comments, in reflection? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question has to do with the funding spike around 2021. Okay, so my question has to do with the spike, the funding spike noticed in 2021 and the current dip. I'm very interested in the why. So I know you alluded to that by saying that there was less funding coming from the commercial sector, but why did less funding come from the commercial sector? So I don't know if you can't answer it now. I would suggest that when you're going in for your second phase of your research, it's something that it should be a research question, very key research question. Thank you.
So we'll take maybe 3 or so questions, then they can respond, okay?
All right, so also around funding, as usual, who are the top 3 funders? Can you give us an example of who are maybe the top 3 or top 5 funders of many of this, funding things happening around Nigeria and Kenya?
All right. Next. So apart from questions, we could also share our experiences and insights from our countries, our regions, which can also help to enlighten this.
Good morning, everyone. Millicent Okumu, AgriFlex Limited. So thank you, ladies, for the very elaborate report. My question is related to the funding on female founders. You say that the percentage is very low. What is the percentage? Because there's different data out here. So according to your research, what is the percentage and why is it that low? Is it because the female founders are not solving key problems which are affecting our people, or what are the key reasons why that percentage is that low every year? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll allow you to respond to those 3 interventions before we take in take on an additional set. So you can decide between the two of you who wants to go first.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First, I will premise this by saying, as I mentioned, we are doing analysis based on a data set that we have collected largely by scraping the internet and visiting some of the platforms such as Dieselroom, Crunchbase that actually have paywalls that prevent people from accessing that data and creating a bit more transparency in the market. So as a consequence, in fact, I believe a lot of the answers to the questions lie in the room because we are indeed seeing some trends and patterns in the data that we can't explain yet because we are kind of looking at it from a high level, yeah? If I could start with the last question around female founders, I think this is a problem that affects all sectors, yeah? Generally, when you look at innovation in transport, in energy, in agriculture, in water, you find that entrepreneurial teams are largely dominated by men, yeah? And this could be a cultural issue, this could be a systemic issue. I think it's worth further discussion on this. I can't say that I have further reason as to why that is. I feel it's more a systemic problem that we've been having in a lot of our African countries, in how women are supported to be able to develop impactful innovations, which not that they are not, but often lack access to, or lack capacity to access funding, yeah? Because there's a certain type of, should I say, maybe the word is not aggression, mindset, or there's a certain character, I would imagine, that is required to really navigate that space that you find that women entrepreneurs are intimidated by, or often, actually in most cases, lack access. There's a glass ceiling, I would say, yeah? But there could be other explanations here, particularly from those who are dealing with these entrepreneurs directly on a day-to-day basis. I believe you can shed more light on whether you're seeing similar dynamics in your day-to-day that is differing from what we are seeing in the data.
I would like to answer about the top 3 funders. Again, our analysis was mostly centered around the startups themselves and just looking at how much funding the different startups have received, not more on the type, which funders have sent in what. But we are hoping that in the second phase, we can extend our analysis to focus on the type of funders, on which funders.
I actually find that women have less access to collateral compared to men, which is also partly societal, cultural, the way it's set up. Yeah. But again, as I said, we need to hear also from you in terms of what are you observing on the ground? What should we do? Otherwise, we'll keep talking.
My question was actually on the women funding being low, and because I don't know whether your funding is also based on which sort of funding, because the issue of collateral could come in, because obviously the women don't have collateral, because that's a challenge in the funding industry. But maybe in your next phase, you will need to dig deeper on the actual reasons. Is it that the women are not coming out, or is it that they are coming and they are denied?
Ownership of the businesses, because you say there are a number of businesses in Kenya, but are they owned by Kenyans?
Yeah.
You get my question?
Yeah.
Then the other bit is I looked at your graph showing the financing on value chain. So I see a high on retail, and my question there is it because that they're looking at growth and scale, And is there an increased appetite for people to also invest in food loss? So I was also looking at production, processing, so efficiency levels. Is that also something that is being seen? Yeah, thanks.
John, I think, last question. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm not repeating what has been said already, but I think it's an exciting piece of information, but very depressing at the same time. Because then, so what? So we've heard of those things, we know it, you've said it, we've heard it many times. And then what? And I do think that maybe there's need, because it does look like, and it's very evident that you have a lot of capacity to extract the information.
Better research questions, the kinds of issues that have been